Hey guys, what's up? It's Jules here for WhatCulture.com, and I want to talk to you today about enemies, or more specifically, about deadly ones. Now, we all know those types of enemies that really just put the willies into you, and I'm not talking about those naked guys from Amnesia, but the ones that make you just literally just put down your controller and just say, no thank you please, I see what you're about, I'm done. Yeah, deadly ones. Instead of engaging these foes, we try to skirt around them at all costs. But let's do the opposite of that today together, shall we? And just barrel straight into them. Huzzah! Who says I'm not a smart guy? With this in mind, I'm Jules for WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 deadly enemies that every player tries to avoid.
But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to stay notified. Ding, ding, done.
Number 10, Greyjack, Resistance. Now immediately you're probably thinking, Jules, Resistance is a game in which you've got a gun. How can you feel unempowered? If you've got a gun, you can just shoot the baddies in the face. Well, to that I say, Resistance, throwing in Greyjacks, turns even the steeliest of shooters into a gibbering wreck. The first time I saw one of these lurch towards me, I ended up looking like Kermit the Frog having a fit. The design for them is terrifying, as well as looking like gangly, grinning freaks, and they will pursue you for a fair old while if you stupidly engage them. And the moment that you're introduced to them is utterly terrifying. When they burst out of those test tubes, it's like having a forced heart attack. And later on in the game, when they're just chucked into regular firefights, it makes you just turn around and scramble for any sort of exit. Jesus. Number 9, XENOMORPH, Alien Isolation. I mean, have you seen this thing? It's like a walking f***ing nightmare. I've not seen something this big, black and penetrative since your mother showed me her bedroom power tools. There's my one per list, you're welcome. The thing is here is that you have to avoid the XENOMORPH because you will not win a one-on-one fight with it. Yet there is nothing more terrifying than thinking that you're in the clear only to hear that dreaded roar coming from behind you. Its iconic design and deadly nature means that you must avoid this at all costs. Because you know what? In space, no one can hear you shit yourself. Number 8, Nemesis, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. I bloody love Nemesis from Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. I mean, he literally came along and turned the franchise on its head. Up until this point, enemies had typically been slow, lumbering, and you could literally run circles around them. But Burnt Face Man over here decides to show up, being agile, aggressive, and with moves that will turn you into a mess bigger than my personal life. It wasn't fun, you should run. The game even tells you multiple times to run from the bastard, and while you can fight him, I bet you 9 times out of 10 that gamers chose to scarper rather than take on this burly pepperami. Number 7, Pyramid Head, Silent Hill 2. Pyramid Head is an icon of horror. With his giant, grotesque, masculine appearance and his big, bloody chopper, he's definitely stayed in the nightmares of many for a fair old while and is still terrifying to this day. What makes things even more stressful is that the camera angles actively obscure your view a lot in order to confuse you, so facing him is an absolute exercise in pain. Now, Pyramid Head is but one of the reasons why Silent Hill 2 is one of the best horror games of all time, but still, when I meet him, I run quicker than I do from Ewan's mother when she's chasing me for alimony. Number 6, SCP-173, SCP Containment Breach. Now, SCP Containment Breach has a lot of monsters that could have made this list, but this one, well, I think we all know why he's on here. Because when it comes to truly terrifying enemies that fill players with dread, you can't choose anything other than the main monster itself. Now, SCP-173, while sounding like a pretty awful STD, is actually in reality even more terrifying, only moving when the player isn't looking at him. And trust me, when you look like a giant baby mixed with a baked potato mixed with hell itself, you're not going to want to stare at it for long. On top of all of this, the monster doesn't even have set spawn locations, so it just tends to show up wherever it wants, making the game an exercise in caution and terror when you spot it in a room that you need to go through, and now you can't. Number 5, The Regenerator, Resident Evil 4. Now this one makes me feel so uncomfortable, not just because it's an absolute bastard to take down and it looks extremely horrible, but because it sounds terrifying as well. It sounds like Rich Hudson does every time they announce a new roller coaster tycoon game.
Must build a part.
If you encounter one of these while running even slightly low on ammo and don't have an upgraded sniper rifle, you're gonna have a terrible time. Plus, it also comes in a Hot Topic spikier version, which is an absolute ball ache. If this thing grabs you, it'll penetrate you on its Slipknot-style body, giving you even more reason, if you needed any more, to avoid it at all costs. Number 4, The Witch, Left 4 Dead. To borrow an expression from Radiohead, burn the witch. And also anyone else who thinks it's a good idea to shoot it just to see what happens. Well, this is what happens, Mark. This is why we don't play the game anymore. Just keep f***ing about with her. Just leave her be. Cheeky whippet. Number 3, Basilisks, Dark Souls. Now, while the majority of this game is about as hard as trying to teach astrophysics using hieroglyphs, the basilisks are actually quite easy to take down. But don't take them lightly! Because this is yet another one of their massive ruses, because if you barge in swinging your sword around, you'll start to see one of the most feared build-up meters in the entire franchise. Being cursed is the worst, rendering even the best player a statue for the rest of the world to laugh at. And these guys spew out a mist that whip things up quicker than the Flash mixing a cake. And the worst thing is that these guys travel in packs, meaning that you're going to have to wade through more bile than a YouTube comment section. Grim times for all. So while this game is full of horrific monstrosities, it's these weird, bug-eyed little frogs that cause me the most fear. Thanks, Dark Souls. Number 2, DEATHCLAWS, Fallout. DEATHCLAWS are truly fearsome enemies. Running into one of these near the beginning of your game is pretty much just going to be an insta-kill. You're not going to stand a chance. Now, I'm not going to talk about the ones in Fallout 4 because in my opinion, the way that you just iced one at the beginning kind of took the mustard out of this spicy sauce, if you know what I'm saying. But the other DEATHCLAWS, woof, no thank you please. Incredibly fast, strong, and relentless, these guys will pursue you pretty much the entire length of the map if you are so unlucky enough as to engage them. And the worst thing is that you're going to spend so much of your arsenal taking them down, and you can only imagine my frustration and the amount of controllers I smashed against the wall when you finally do take one down, and 2 more just round the corner, just going, all right lad, what's up? F*** you. That's what's up. And number 1, SINISTAR. The titular boss of this arcade game is pretty much the epitome of stress and fear. For the majority of your playtime, you're just minding your business, and then boom, here's SINISTAR, a nearly indestructible and relentless being who will chew you up and spit you out. Annoyingly as well, he's a massive smack talker, and only those that have really mastered the game stand a chance of taking him down. For everyone else though, just give up. I never say this, I'm usually quite positive, but just give up. Don't give up. And there we go, those were 10 dreaded enemies that every player should really try to avoid. Let me know down in the comment section below if you've got any more that you'd like to add to this list. But before you go, I just want to draw your attention to something else that I do here at the good ship What Culture. It's called Insane Things That Are Happening in Wrestling. That's a show that I do every week over on the Wrestling Channel. Maybe you should check it out. Or if that's not your thing, then maybe go over to That Film Theory, where you can look at my latest video that I've done there, which is on whether or not Dumbledore was actually secretly training Harry to become an Obscurial. Sounds interesting, doesn't it? Anyway, as always, I've been Jules, you've been awesome, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye!